Brought to you by Surfshark VPN. Okay, folks, it's almost 2022. It's time to face reality. If you think it's important to shower or brush your teeth, all that other personal hygiene stuff, it's time to start taking your digital hygiene a little more seriously too. Every time you log onto the internet without a VPN, you are putting yourself at risk. Online privacy is more important now than ever before. And you might be thinking, well, why do I want anonymity? You know, I've got nothing to hide. Okay, well, tell you what, I'll make you a deal. How about I come to your house and I just stand outside your window and just peer inside your house all day? You know? You're not doing anything wrong. You have nothing to hide, right? Everybody has something to hide. It doesn't mean you're up to no good, but you've got to use a VPN. Your online habits are nobody's business. And I just switched to Surfshark myself. They actually came offering a sponsorship, of course, but after trying out Surfshark, I actually got rid of my old VPN, and I'm totally on board with Surfshark now. Lightning fast speed, an absolute truckload of servers to connect to all over the world. It's one of the most intuitive interfaces ever. You can connect to a whole other continent and use the internet as if you're on the other side of the world, and then open up Netflix or Hulu or any of those other ones you subscribe to and just see all the crazy amount of titles that you can only get with a VPN. So right now, if you follow the link in the description and you use promo code NightDocs, you'll get not only 3 months absolutely free, but 83% off of a standard plan. They are so confident in their product that they not only give you a huge discount and 3 months for free, they even offer a full 30-day money-back guarantee. So not only is there no risk at all, you won't even have to pay for 3 whole months after you sign up because they are that confident in their product. Once again, promo code NightDocs, link in the description. On with the show.
The world of ghosts and demons in human history goes all the way back to the invention of writing. For as long as human beings explored the concept of the soul, they have pondered the implications of a soul being separated from its body. There's an often overlooked story in the Old Testament. Most people are familiar with the story of David and Saul. In about 1000 BC, Saul, having outlawed all sorcery, witchcraft, and necromancy, found himself in a precarious situation when the Philistine army was upon him, about to destroy all he held dear in the world. As the prophet Samuel, who had divined the will of God to him, had died, he was left with no one to tell him the future and what he should do to claim victory.
Then Saul said to his servants, "Seek out for me a woman who is a medium, so that I may go to her and inquire of her." His servants said to him, "There is a medium at Endor." So Saul disguised himself and put on other clothes and went there, he and 2 men with him. They came to the woman by night, and he said, "Consult the spirit for me, and bring up for me that one whom I name to you." The woman said to him, "Surely you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off the mediums and the wizards from the land. Why then are you laying a snare for my life to bring about my death?" But Saul swore to her by the Lord, "As the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this thing." Then the woman said, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" He answered, "Bring up Samuel for me."
The witch of Endor conjured up the long-dead prophet of Samuel, telling him that there was no hope and that he would soon be destroyed. Many see the story of the witch of Endor as an anomalous tale in the Old Testament. In the land of ancient Mesopotamia, witches, sorcerers, and exorcists were as common and as highly regarded as any other specialized profession. Although the story is dated to around 1000 BC, we're going to go back much, much further.
Hello, my name is Irving Finkel, and I'm a curator in the British Museum in the Middle East Department. And the thing is, when you read this in the Bible, people gloss over it as a story or as a metaphor or just something in the Bible. But when you know about what was going on in ancient Mesopotamia, you can see that this is not by any means a metaphor or a piece of literary creation, but a day-to-day raw description of something that everybody did.
Dr. Irving Finkel curator at the British Museum in the Middle East Department, is one of the world's leading experts on ancient Mesopotamia. One of the few on Earth who can read the ancient cuneiform tablets that give us an insight into a culture that predates almost all of recorded human history, dating back to a time where even woolly mammoth still roamed in the wild.
Everybody in Mesopotamia, as far as I understand it, believed in ghosts. So you never had a conversation with someone saying, I was talking to my neighbour and she said she saw a ghost in the laundry and she must be stupid to believe all that kind of stuff. Everybody knows that there are ghosts and all that. That didn't happen in Mesopotamia. It was a day-to-day thing that everybody took for granted, but also they weren't on the whole frightened of them, but rather sympathetic, because they thought they were troubled and they couldn't rest and they needed to be looked after.
Dr. Finkel has been working on a book, which unfortunately will not be out until after Halloween, but I'd love to get my hands on it. It's called The First Ghosts, in which he lays out decades of research into the ancient Mesopotamian culture in regards to spirits, ghosts, and demons. Fortunately, he's commented quite a bit over the years about his research, particularly on YouTube.
This is the oldest drawing in the whole history of this planet that shows a ghost. It is absolutely a marvelous thing. The figurine on the left, the tall, thin, gangly-looking old man, he is the ghost. He's gone away, but no. A few months go by, and guess who's in the corner? So they call in a procession, exorcist, and this is what is necessary. The conception is that this grandfather is troublesome because he's unhappy. So what you do is you make this figurine of the grandfather, which is drawn here carefully to scale. On the clay, you can see he's walking forward and his hands are tied together in some kind of rope. Then you make this second figure on the right, which is a rather buxom, impressive figure of a woman. She has a close-fitting cap, a long dress, a belted dress, and with shoes, and she's striding forward. She held one end of the rope, and the old man's hands were tied at the other. And this is the plan, that she's going to be his lover. So you make these two figures, you put them in a hole in the ground and then bury them. And the idea was that this rather dishy woman would then take grandfather off to the underworld, making sure he doesn't escape with the rope, and then they would live happily ever after together and never come back at all.
An important distinction between ancient Mesopotamia and modern times in regards to ghosts is that where people nowadays see them as a terrifying, malevolent force that you'd be shy to talk about within certain circles, the ancients saw them as a part of everyday life that was simply a given. And just as people vary in temperament, ghosts and demons were just as benign in nature to them.
The Mesopotamian view of deities was modeled on their view of the human race, which, of course, has the result that the individuals are unreliable, they tell lies, they are adulterous, they get drunk, they get bored, they get easily distracted, and the gods did the same. There were lots of things that largely you couldn't see, which were waiting to zap you. And if you've been abandoned by your personal deity, or you've been particularly unpleasant in your behavior to somebody else, they might come for you.
We'll return to the relevance of the story of the Witch of Endor as explained in the Old Testament. But in order to do that, we have to analyze the culture of that region during that time.
If you saw a ghost in your kitchen in ancient Babylonia, the thing it's most like in the modern world is if you are in your own kitchen, in your house, and you are chopping vegetables, and a mouse runs across the floor over your toe. So if this happens, even in the best houses, you have mice. If this happens, you don't like this, you start. And then you think, damn. And then you think, I'm going to have to do something about this. I'm going to have to put something down. I'm going to have to get a trap. So your immediate reaction is being jumpy, and then an annoyance factor that you have to get rid of it.
One thing to keep in mind is that because it was understood by society at large that spirits were just a part of the fabric of reality, good, bad, and everything in between, many believed that things as simple as migraines and disease were a result of demons entering in through your ear. This gave rise to specialized professions who trained their entire lives in the art of spells and witchcraft, as it would be understood today, studying just as diligently as any doctor or other specialized profession, all in an effort to keep unwanted spirits at bay. Basically, ancient Ghostbusters.
Are you troubled by strange noises in the middle of the night?
Do you experience feelings of dread in your basement or attic?
Have you or any of your family ever seen a spook, specter, or ghost?
If the answer is yes, then don't wait another minute. Pick up your phone and call the professionals.
Ghostbusters.
Our courteous and efficient staff is on call 24 hours a day to serve all your supernatural elimination needs.
We're ready to believe you!
The ancient Mesopotamians had a belief system every bit as rich, though nowhere near as famous as the Greek gods like Zeus and Apollo. Among many of the named entities that ancient sorcerers and professional exorcists cataloged in long lists written on cuneiform tablets were the opposing forces of Lamashtu and Pazuzu. Lamashtu, a malevolent demoness, was the nightmare force that terrified every new and expecting mother across the land. Known for prowling around at night, using her keen sense of smell, she would savagely root out babies, snatching them away in the darkness.
This Lamashtu is a lion-headed female who's depicted on stone amulets, suckling a wolf and a dog with snakes riding on the back of a donkey in a boat. They knew precisely why they wanted to have nothing to do with her, because her interest was in children, babies, pregnant women, and so forth. And there's some very poetic texts which talk about Lamashtu prowling down the street and sniffing through all the door jambs and trying to see if there's a new baby there, because she would sneak in and devour it. So she, Lamashtu, is intelligibly to be seen as the personification of the danger of childbirth, which, of course, in ancient times and often subsequently, has been a very hazardous thing for women. And she was the focus of the thing they all feared, very lithe and very dangerous.
Pazuzu, on the other hand, was the enemy of Lamashtu. Beyond knowing Pazuzu's enmity towards Lamashtu, we know very little of this benevolent demon.
Pazuzu is very ugly, grotesque face. And when you see a Pazuzu, you think, it must be evil, must be something I don't want to have anything to do with. But it's just the opposite, because this Pazuzu, the sight of his face was enough to drive Lamashtu away altogether. If Lamashtu saw him through the window, she would go away.
It was a common burial practice in ancient Mesopotamia, most notably with wealthier families, for the family burial plot to be located in the courtyard of the home. The family crypt would be the final resting place for generations upon generations of family members, located deep inside of a crypt, underneath the courtyard. As part of the ancient burial practice, effigies of certain demons to ward off other ghostly entities were buried with the deceased.
And this figure, which looked like a demon, was on our side and would banish the real demons, so that the demons would recognize this figure as one of them and do as they were told. And on the right, you had this horrible lion-type figure peeping over the top and staring. This is another one of these figures from the murky world of demons.
You may start to notice by now how closely these ancient descriptions have with modern-day superstitions. For example, the idea that warding off spirits and demons with effigies of opposing entities dating back thousands of years is still seen today. Although the vast majority of spells and incantations were intended to keep the spirits at bay and well within the confines of the underworld, there was a taboo form of sorcery taught and practiced by a very specialized set of magicians that could recall a spirit back to the world of the living if there was a pressing matter that required the knowledge of one who had passed into the afterlife. If you'll recall the biblical story of the Witch of Endor that we covered at the beginning of the video, the biblical account doesn't really go into too much detail about how the witch was able to conjure up the ghost of the prophet Samuel. However, ancient cuneiform writings of the old necromancers give us the instructions on how to conjure the dead and command them to tell us the future. As the dead were buried in courtyard plots, you would go down into the crypt in the dead of night and retrieve the skull of the person that you were attempting to contact. You would then place that skull upon an altar with incense and certain incantations that would be recited, calling upon the dead ghost to inhabit the skull once again and speak truth. Calling upon the sun god Shamash and pouring oil made of strange ingredients, including lizard bile, over the skull. The intent was to entreat the sun god to coerce the spirit dwelling in the underworld to come back up to the realm of the living and inhabit the skull to be interrogated. And so it was that the ancient king Ashurbanipal employed the use of necromancers to recall the spirit of his deceased grandmother, to ask her skull sitting before him if he was meant to be the next king of Assyria.
So the underworld. I just have to show you this. This is the Queen of the Night. It's called the Queen of the Night. I think it is this Ereshkigal, who was the queen mentioned with Abatu and the other one in the previous spell. This is definitely an underworld goddess. She has a crown, a very special horned crown. She's holding these two symbols in her arms. She's winged, and you can see she's got feathered feet, and she has lions attending her, and owls. And this is not only an underworld goddess, I'm quite sure that this really shows us what Ereshkigal looked like. And she was queen in the underworld, like Inanna was queen on the world, and they were sisters. And she lived in the dark, and she supervised everything and kept all the spirits who were down there for ages and ages and ages under control. So this tablet here is called The Descent of Ishtar. And it's a rather interesting, exciting story when you're a student and you have to read it. Because what happens is this goddess Ishtar, who's the goddess of love and sex and all those interesting things, and the most beautiful thing ever created in the history of the world, her lover, Dumuzi, is down there in the underworld, and she has to go down and rescue him. And that's not so easy, because it's described in this inscription that when you go down to the underworld, there are 7 gates. And the Ereshkigal, the queen, who hears that Inanna's coming, Ishtar is coming, and is not very keen, so she takes the gatekeeper aside and says each time she goes through one of the gates, she has to take off a piece of her clothing. So when she's done this, I've done this wiggly diagram, there's a ziggurat at the top, and you notice saying there's the gate to the underworld, and this is only a joke cartoon done by me for fun, but it gives you an idea of this route. And by the time she got down to the 7th gate, she was stark naked. So when you're a young student reading Assyriology in class with your dry professor, you have to sit there very somberly explaining how this goddess takes off one item of clothing after another until there is nothing left. And when you are 18 and studying this for the first time, the vision that this creates in your mind is a lot more vital than the image that might have occurred in the mind of your professor. And it's very important to stick to the subject and read the text carefully in accordance with grammar and not allow your imagination to get out of control.
I want to thank you today for joining me in diving into a topic that I've started to become a little bit fascinated with, learning a little bit about the first recorded histories of ghosts in one of the oldest civilizations of human beings that we really know about. Be sure to check out Dr. Irving Finkel's work, especially on the first ghosts. The book should be coming out around November, and I've left links to his lectures in the description. Also, be sure to check out my Twitch channel where I play not only games, but make and edit all of these videos. In fact, this whole video was done on Twitch. It's always fun to have new people come hang out, and we have some pretty good times and a really great community with some fun shenanigans. So come check us out, twitch.tv/NightDocsYT. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. I also have a Patreon that you can join at patreon.com/NightDocs. I hope you all have a happy Halloween and a wonderful holiday season ahead of you. But for now, this is NightDocs, signing off.